When war comes in September 1939, Jews desperate to escape Hitler are trapped in Europe. The British White Paper has slammed shut the gates of Palestine. Ben-Gurion, then head of the Jewish Agency, sums up the tragic situation.
While we side with England and France against the most terrifying enemy ever to rise against the Jewish people, the state which leads this war against Hitler proclaims war against the hopes of the Jewish people.
He comes up with what will become a famous epigram.
We will fight the war as if there were no white paper, and we will fight the white paper as if there were no war.
The Jews of Palestine seek to fight the war through the creation of a Jewish combat force within the British Army and to fight the White Paper through illegal immigration. While Prime Minister Chamberlain ignores the Jewish Agency's overtures, Jewish hopes rise when Winston Churchill replaces him in May 1940. Only a few months earlier, Churchill had said of the Jews in the House of Commons,
"They are our only friends in Palestine. The sound policy for Britain would be to build a strong Jewish force in that country."
And indeed, Anthony Eden, the new War Office Secretary, officially informs World Zionist Organization President Chaim Weizmann that the government has decided to proceed with the creation of a Jewish army on the same basis as the Czech and Polish armies in exile. Weizmann is ecstatic and tells friends,
"It is almost as great a day as the Balfour Declaration."
In February 1941, Weizmann is introduced to Major General Leonard Hawes, who has been chosen to command the Jewish force. Plans are being worked out for Hebrew badges and insignia. But when the Colonial Secretary dies suddenly, he is succeeded by Lord Moyne, who persuades Churchill to abandon the idea. The military leadership and Colonial Office are fearful of upsetting the Arabs. The military is only prepared to accept a Palestine regiment made up equally of Jews and Arabs. They will be confined to a support role as drivers, storekeepers, guards, and trench diggers. So few Arabs volunteer. The regiment is soon made up of mostly all Jewish battalions. In 1941 and 1942, the Jewish army proposal takes a back seat as the Zionist leadership focuses on the danger that German Field Marshal Erwin Rommel's forces will sweep through the Middle East and overrun Palestine. The British draw up contingency plans to withdraw to India, and the Jewish leadership, for a brief period with British support, sets about strengthening the underground Haganah and newly formed Palmach. The plan is to establish an enclave in the Carmel mountain range and there move the entire Jewish community to hold out against a Nazi occupation for months, even years, if necessary. The Carmel plan is never put into effect. Rommel is defeated in November 1942 at the Second Battle of El Alamein. The Jews of Palestine no longer in danger, the Jewish Agency renews its demand for a Jewish combat force in 1943. But it is only following the D-Day landings in Normandy that Churchill overrides what he calls the usual silly objections. In September 1944, he says in the House of Commons,
"I know there is a vast number of Jews serving with our forces and the American forces throughout all the armies, but it seems to me indeed appropriate that a special Jewish unit of a race that has suffered indescribable torments from the Nazis should be represented as a distinct formation among the forces gathered for their final overthrow."
The Manchester Guardian observes that the announcement is 5 years late. Even then, it is not until the war is almost over, early in 1945, that the members of the Jewish Infantry Brigade, under command of Brigadier Ernest Benjamin, a Jewish-British career officer, ships off to Italy. It chooses for its shoulder flash a yellow Star of David, a mark of shame in Nazi Germany. It is now worn as a mark of pride. Brigadier Hanok Bartov reports that his fellow soldiers strained at the leash as they waited for the signal to attack.
"The Jews are coming to avenge their slaughtered brothers. No deeds before had ever cried out for such bloody vengeance. It burned in us all."
Like the Jewish Legion in World War I, the brigade takes part in only one major engagement, crossing the Senio River against the forces of Nazi Field Marshal Albert Kesselring. Also, like the Legion in the First World War, the size of the force is only 5,000 men, far smaller than its advocates had hoped. The difference comes at war's end. Unlike the Jewish Legion in World War I, which the British swiftly disbanded, it is after the war that the brigade plays its most important role, gathering up the remnants of Hitler's slaughter. One brigade member says,
We cried with anger at their pitiable condition, physical and mental. We stole milk, food, blankets, clothing, and gave it to them. They were dead, and we brought them to life, and promised they would get to Palestine.
The brigade will now focus on the second half of Ben-Gurion's formula, to fight the White Paper as if there was no war. The means, illegal immigration.